Now, I got my notes with me because I don't want to lose track and pace of this video by rambling, which I can do a lot when it comes to talking about camera gear. But we'll just get into the first thing and the first pro that I really thoroughly enjoy about this camera, and that is the ability to shoot at ProRes HQ and 10-bit 422 and F-Log2. So this is getting us 14 plus stops of dynamic range. So ultimately, the dynamic range of this camera is amazing. I think it's CineD.com talked about how we're getting into the ARRI Alexa range with this 14-bit readout speed. I could see it. I've used the Blackmagic cameras, as you already known. I've used the Sony, I've used the Panasonic, which is another great camera, but there's something different about the images that comes out of the Fujifilm X H2s when it comes to the dynamic range and the color. Just amazing, and that's one of the first pros that I enjoyed about this camera. Now, right now we're filming with the Fujifilm X H2s in ProRes 422, so just the standard, but having that ability to shoot internally is amazing. So that's the first. The rolling shutter on this camera is amazing, even in the highest log profile, such as F-Log2. When shooting in F-Log2, the rolling shutter is very minimal. When I use the Sony a7 IV, that was like one of the first things I noticed about that camera when panning, is like things would get the jello effect and would be slanted when you pan the camera quickly. So if you're doing high speed photos or whatever, even video, and you're panning, you would get that with the a7 IV. But with the Fujifilm X H2s, I don't get any rolling shutter, and if there is, it's not noticeable. Ergonomics of this camera I thoroughly enjoy. The grip is so much better than the XT4, the XT5, and the XT3 when it came to handling and shooting video on an everyday run and gun situation. The Fujifilm X H2s just makes it funner and just easier to use, easier to handle. This is one of the first cameras that I find as my I want to shoot something camera. I want to go out and film. I want to go out and take photos. It's not going to overheat. The battery life is good. Fujifilm has stepped it up with the Fujifilm X-H2s and the X-H2. The Ibis is really, really good. I mean, to me, I guess I've just been practicing for years with cameras with no Ibis. So when coming straight to a camera with Ibis like the Fujifilm X H2s, it was just smooth, buttery footage. Like, I'll give some examples. But actually, the last video that I shot was with no gimbal, so it'll just show you like how smooth and non-jittery it looks. So the audio as well, coming from the camera, if you don't have an external audio recorder, the internal audio that the Fujifilm X H2s captures, the preamps must be really good because it sounds really well and robust audio. So that's something that I did like as well. I just wanted to also mention the pro about the autofocus of this camera when switching from the Fujifilm X-T3 to X-T4, and this is just a massive step up. Also, when I was using the Panasonic Lumix S5, the autofocus was not that great. It was good enough if you're the man behind the camera, but it finally feels good to be the man in front of the camera and not have to worry if the focus is on me. Okay, so we are back inside because, in the famous words of ASAP Ferg,
New York don't know how to be quiet.
And it was getting extremely loud out there, and it was cutting in with my audio, so I'm like, what, let's just take this video inside. So much for having an outside video today. Now, my first con, and it's not a con because this is something that could be fixed with the firmware update or incorporated in the new firmwares, and that would be to get a red frame record indicator. So what that would means is a red box would form around the LCD when recording. It's just something extra to give us that reassurance that we are recording, and I would love to see that. Most importantly, when it comes to exposure for video, if we can get waveforms And false color, like I know false color is a lot to ask, but if we get at least waveform to be on the screen as we're recording to check our exposure, that would be amazing. False color, you add that in with the waveforms, you guys, this is no longer just a hybrid. It could go for your cinema camera. Like it could really take the place as a cinema camera. So with that being said, those are my main things when it comes to cons or things that I didn't like. It was just not even things I didn't like, it was just things that I wish I had. And another thing would be the autofocus when it comes to adapting lenses. It seems that the autofocus parameter settings, when setting them in the camera, they don't translate to when using adapted lenses such as the Sigma 18-35 f1.8. Seems like whatever settings you put in the camera, they just don't recognize those parameters, and the lens focuses quick, fast, and sometimes that's just not what you want. You kind of want a natural gradual focus pull. It seems like only Fujifilm made lenses, native lenses, are the ones that will follow the parameters, the autofocus parameters that you set in camera. So I just hope that in the future they will be able to have some type of way to make adapted lenses follow the autofocus parameters in camera. So that about sums it up for my cons or things that I want to see in the Fujifilm X-H2s. As we know, it recently just came out a couple months ago. So, let's give it some time. I give it 6 months. Once we get about 6 months of good firmware updates, we should be somewhere in the ballpark of what I want. I know Fujifilm was listening. I know I'm not the only person that wants to see these things in the X-H2s or the H2s. So I know that they're coming. Now, I feel like this camera is for those of you who are hybrid shooters, who will take photos 1 minute and then switch over and want to get quick video the next. So to be able to just, get great photos and get great video with great dynamic range, this is the camera for you. And the autofocus locks onto my eye and it does a great job. And I just feel like, if you want a hybrid solution that's lightweight, who has a company deeply entrenched in film, if you want film simulations and you don't want to have to keep buying film, rolls and cartridges all the time, you have them kind of built in this camera. And with Fuji X Weekly, you can change the not the color signs, but the colors and the look just in camera, without even having to go into Lightroom. That's something that a lot of these other cameras don't have. So, photography, videography, filmmaking, especially filmmaking and cinematography, I believe that this camera could be for those users as well. As me, I'm primarily a video shooter, and I've shot a short film with the X-H2s, loved it, loved the quality, but it seems that Fujifilm has aimed this mainly to video creators, content creators, but also with great photo capability. So yeah, that about sums it up. So I hope I was able to help you guys gain some insight on this Fujifilm X-H2s. Please like and subscribe. Comment if you'd like on what you would like to see in the next coming videos, and any questions you may have. Please once again subscribe, as my views do not match the subscribers. Till then, I hope to see you again in the next one. Later.